It was the winter of 1993, and I was on a plane from Vancouver, British Columbia to Florida. I had been planting a church in Vancouver for 4 years, and the church took off. It grew to 500 people. The church was going up, but my spirit was going down, and I just had to get away. So I got on the plane, went to Florida. My parents had a trailer there. They met me at the airport. They wondered why I was there. Where's your wife? But I didn't give them much of an answer, and so they were smart enough not to ask any more questions. Next day, I asked if I could borrow their car, and I drove their car across the state of Florida to the East Coast. And for 2.5 hours, I just bawled like a baby, and I couldn't stop the tears, and I had no idea why I was crying. And finally I got to Miami, and I turned south, and I got to the Keys, and I went from one key to the next. Finally, when the sun went down, I tried to find a place, a hotel, discovered that they're $150 a night, and so being a good Dutchman, I decided just to sleep in the back seat. So I found the most expensive hotel, and I slept in their parking lot. That night, God spoke to me, as much as God speaks to Christian Reform people. And this is what he said: I am here. Now I remember thinking, okay, you're here. How does that help? The next day I got up, I drove back to my parents' place, got on the plane, went to Vancouver, and I started feeling better. I didn't know exactly why. But over the next few weeks, God revealed to me what he meant. What he was saying is, I am here, Steve, and what matters to me is your relationship to me, your walk with me. And what next matters to me is your walk with your wife, and together your walk with me. And finally, your relationship to your children and your family's walk with me. And if as a family, as you're walking with me, if you could share that walk with a few other families, that's all I need from you. And if those families share it with other families and it grows into a church, well, that's my problem, not yours. So I came to my consistory, I came to my church, and I said, I'm not going to stand on my head to make this service better than last week's. What I want to do is learn how to walk with God, with my wife and with my kids. And if anyone wants to learn how to do that, anyone wants to figure out what that is, let me know. And I had 4 couples came to me and said, we want to know. And so with those 4, I really restarted the church. And we tried to figure out, well, what is a daily walk with God? What does it look like as husbands and wives sitting down, reading the Bible together and praying? What does it look like with a family worshiping together at home? So I guess with your conference here that I'm not able to attend, I guess 3 things that I'd like to communicate. One from this story is, I guess the last 15 years I've been working on this walk that happens at home. What is home discipleship? What is the part of church that should happen in someone's homes? How do we get people praying, reading the Bible, singing, playing instruments? I mean, what does that look like? And what can we do with curriculum that would help people do things at home? So that's the first thing, is a curriculum that happens at home, or at least parts of the curriculum that comes home. The second thing is a unified curriculum. For example, this past year in our church, we followed the children's worship themes, and we found a Bible reading track. We looked in the Bible and tried to find passages that related to those themes. So we had 7 chapters a week. Everyone in the church is reading those 7 chapters, and on Sunday I would preach that theme. So our kids were doing it, our young people were doing it, our Boys and Girls Club were doing it, the small groups were talking about it. The whole church was on this unified theme, and what I saw happening is people talking to one another. Every time you met someone, you could talk about the same thing. We were together. And what I've learned over the last 25 years in church planting, and I've done an established church, a church planting, and a restart of a church, is I've noticed in each situation the church really grew when the church got united. That was the biggest factor. When churches are united together behind something, good things happen. People invite their friends to church, and good things happen. And I guess the third thing is an idea that we're toying with is kind of a university idea, Pathway University, we're calling it. And we have a passport, like a stamp collection. When you buy a stamp collection book, there'll be a faint imprint of the stamp that you might want to collect. And when you get the real stamp, then you paste it in there. So we want to make this book, this curriculum that people can kind of in a way earn a stamp. And so people would be taking courses. A lot of the courses probably Faith Alive already has. But maybe what we need to do is make them more adaptable. In other words, instead of a class situation, you could do it at home alone. Or maybe you could do it online. Or maybe it could be a hybrid thing where you're doing partly class, partly something that happens at home. We took the Heidelberg Catechism, for example, and we took out the Ten Commandments, the Apostles' Creed, the Lord's Prayer, and what you're left with is your basic doctrine stuff. And we had a class with the parents and their kids, and then, so we had class time together, but then the bulk of the work took place at home. Then the next week we'd meet again, so it was like a 3-week course. But that course should be perhaps something you could do online, or you could do it all together with a class, or a lot of different ways. And then you're keeping track of it in your passport thing. Which things have I done? It's a way to motivate people. It's a way to hold people accountable. You're talking to Bob, you look at his passport, and Bob, you haven't taken a missions course in 2 years. Maybe you could maybe you could read these 3 books. Look, we have some easy books that you can read with your children, and then you'd get that stamp. That's maybe an area that you could look into. Or when you have teachers or people to be elders or deacons, we have kind of prerequisites. We like our elders and our deacons to have taken 3 courses over here that are Bible related, and then of course the doctrinal thing, and then maybe the history of the Christian Reformed Church, and then you can outline pastoral counseling 101, and probably we have a lot of the courses there already. And so I don't know how hard it would be, but perhaps what churches need is sort of a blueprint or a framework, kind of a collegiate kind of thing. I teach a class online preaching and online music, and we use a software program called Moodle, and it organizes things and it helps you keep everything in one place. And so maybe what we need is some kind of a template that churches could use to put this together. So anyway, just 3 thoughts. How do we do home discipleship? How do we have more courses that come home to make things happen at home? Secondly, perhaps a unified curriculum. I know how hard that is. Cadets have their own thing. GEMs have their own thing. Young people's are everyone's doing their own thing. And is there a way to unify some of this? And third, maybe this university kind of idea. Anyway, I hope you enjoy your what? No, I'm online right now, and tea time. I gotta go.